The smug, gray-skinned alien smirked as he watched the human struggle to reverse engineer the benzite hovercar, thinking to himself how this would be the day Theros proved the primitive apes could never match his species' technological prowess. He had no clue that the failure he would witness would forever shatter his misconceptions about Earth's potential and inspire a quantum leap in innovation for all humankind. Roy gritted his teeth as he read over the latest report. Another human colony ship destroyed, another plea for benzite assistance denied. He crumpled the paper in his fist, the bureaucratic bullshit of his desk job at the UN Alien Relations Department eating away at him like battery acid. It had been 20 years since the technologically superior benzites made first contact. 20 years of them lording their achievements over humanity, parceling out breadcrumbs of scientific knowledge while withholding the real breakthroughs that could propel human society forward. Led by that condescending prick Theros, the benzites treated humans like children playing in a sandbox, not equals. Roy had experienced their patronizing attitude firsthand as a young soldier, escorting Theros on a visit to Earth. The alien had sneered at smartphones and scoffed at skyscrapers. "How quaint," Theros had remarked. "Humans are so primitive." But humanity was nothing, if not resourceful. They reverse-engineered every scrap of tech the benzites deigned to share, bootstrapping themselves forward. Earth's brightest minds were hungry for more, hungry to prove themselves. Now hostile insectoid aliens were attacking Mars, correctly pegging humans as a soft target compared to the major galactic powers. The bugs would reach Earth within days, and only benzite plasma cannons could stop them. But Theros remained unmoved by Roy's pleas aboard the alien mothership. "Your conflict is not our concern," the gray alien said with a dismissive wave. Roy swallowed his rage, appealing to logic. "Think of humanity's potential, what we could accomplish together if you fully shared your knowledge." "You are far too primitive to understand our technology," Theros interjected coldly. "Further cooperation is not in our interests." Even offers of generous trade deals were rebuffed. A no-win scenario. Returning to Earth, Roy delivered the grim news. The UN had no choice but to throw its full military might against the insectoids, knowing it would be a bloodbath. Millions would die, all because the benzites refused to get off their high horses. Slumped at his desk, Roy racked his brain for options. Most of the benzite tech was still decades beyond humanity's grasp. Most, but perhaps not all. His eyes widened as he recalled the whispers, the rumors of top UN scientists working to crack alien code in hidden black site labs. Dangerous, unauthorized research that flouted the benzites' technology sharing restrictions. If the rumors were true, if those scientists had managed to reverse engineer something substantial enough to close the gap, it was a desperate long shot, the only shot Earth had left. Roy stood up, knowing he would catch hell for this, but he had to try. He had to prove Theros wrong about humanity before it was too late. Roy gunned the engine of his hoverbike, racing through the streets of New York toward the classified location of the UN's black site labs. The clock was ticking, each second bringing the insectoid fleet closer to Earth's doorstep. He had to see this supposed breakthrough for himself, to determine if it could truly be the ace up humanity's sleeve. Flashing his high-level clearance badge, Roy gained entry to the nondescript warehouse that concealed one of Earth's most sensitive research facilities. Inside, he navigated a labyrinth of sterile corridors before reaching the high-security chamber where Earth's brightest minds had been hard at work. Dr. Amos Kincaid, the project lead, greeted Roy with a triumphant grin. "You're just in time," the scientist said, leading Roy to a workbench where a sleek, menacing-looking weapon lay. "Feast your eyes on the fruits of our labor." Roy picked up the plasma cannon prototype, marveling at its elegant design. It was lighter than he expected, perfectly balanced. Dr. Kincaid launched into an excited explanation, detailing how they had not only reverse-engineered the benzite technology but streamlined it, boosting the cannon's power output and efficiency. "Theros won't be able to dismiss this," Roy said, a glimmer of hope kindling in his chest. "I need this prototype at the UN yesterday. We've got a condescending alien to prove wrong." But before celebrations could commence, Roy's comlink crackled with dire news. Insectoid forces had overrun another human colony, wiping it off the star map. The enemy fleet's projected arrival at Earth had been moved up to a mere 72 hours. Roy's heart sank as UN leadership made the situation crystal clear. Securing Benzite assistance was now priority number one. Failure was not an option. Wasting no time, Roy sent a terse message to Theros, requesting an immediate audience aboard the Benzite mothership. He hinted at a game-changing development, hoping it would be enough to pique the aliens' interest. An agonizing hour passed before Theros' reply arrived, agreeing to the meeting with palpable reluctance. Roy could practically hear the eye roll in the Benzite's tone, his certainty that the primitive humans had nothing of value to offer. If only he knew. With Dr. Kincaid and the plasma cannon prototype in tow, Roy boarded a shuttle bound for the waiting Benzite ship. As they docked and stepped onto the gleaming deck plates of the alien vessel, Theros greeted them with his signature brand of condescension. "I do hope this isn't another waste of my valuable time," the Benzite leader drawled, his gray features set in a mask of boredom. Roy bit back a retort, knowing everything rode on, keeping his cool. They strode into the mothership's main conference room, where Roy pulled up the latest sensor data on the insectoid fleet's inexorable approach. The Armada's size and firepower were staggering, a death blow aimed squarely at the heart of human civilization. Theros barely spared the readouts a glance. "As I've already made clear, your conflict is not our concern," he said flatly. "Humans must learn to fend for themselves." Roy's frustration built to a crescendo, his patience at its limit. It was now or never. Nodding to Dr. Kincaid, Roy watched as the scientist reverently lifted the prototype plasma cannon onto the conference table with a heavy clunk. "I think you'll find that humanity is not as primitive as you believe," Roy said, quiet conviction in his voice. Dr. Kincaid took over, walking Theros through the cannon's groundbreaking specifications, the ingenious modifications that had elevated it beyond its Benzite origins. As the scientist spoke, Roy studied Theros' face, watching smugness give way to genuine astonishment as the alien examined the weapon with new eyes. Sensing an opening, Roy drove his point home. "With these plasma cannons, we stand a chance against the insectoids. We can hold the line, protect not just Earth, but the entire sector." He leaned forward, locking gaze with Theros. "But if we fall, how long do you really think it will be before the bugs come for the Benzites? How long before your misjudgment of humans becomes your own undoing?" Theros' face was unreadable, a war of emotions playing out behind those aloof gray eyes. Abruptly he rose and left the room, leaving Roy and Dr. Kincaid to stew in uncertainty. An hour crawled by, the weight of the moment crushing. The fate of billions hung on the Benzite's decision, on Roy's gambit. When Theros finally returned, his demeanor was changed, his arrogance diminished. "I have conferred with my advisors," he began slowly, each word measured. "In light of this impressive display of human capability, we are prepared to provide you with the plasma cannon technology." Roy exhaled, hardly daring to believe it, but Theros wasn't finished. "However," the Benzite continued, "our support comes with a condition. You must prove the effectiveness of your prototype in battle against the insectoids. Fight them off using your own creation, and the full might of the Benzite military will join you." Roy's mind raced, the enormity of the challenge sinking in. But as he glanced at Dr. Kincaid, at the cannon that represented humanity's defiant stand, he knew there was only one choice. "I accept," he said simply, meeting Theros' gaze. The die was cast. Earth's survival, and the chance to redefine humanity's place among the stars, now rested on Roy's shoulders. It was a burden he would gladly bear. For if he succeeded, Theros and the galaxy would never again underestimate the indomitable spirit of humankind. Roy wasted no time assembling his strike team. He handpicked Earth's finest soldiers and scientists, loading them onto the sleek Benzite stealth shuttle along with the prototype plasma cannon. Dr. Kincaid triple-checked the weapons systems as the team strapped in. "Remember, we only get one shot at this," Roy said, his voice taut. "If we fail, Earth burns." The shuttle glided out of the Benzite mothership's hangar bay, its cloaking device engaged. Roy felt the familiar pull of acceleration as they rocketed towards the asteroid belt. Tense minutes ticked by as they navigated the field of space rocks, following Benzite nav data to the insectoid's staging area. Suddenly, the sensor operator's voice cut through the silence. "Massive contact dead ahead. It's a destroyer, sir, and... Jesus, I'm counting at least 50 fighters swarming around it." Roy's face hardened. This was it. "Decloak and prime the cannon. Dr. Kincaid, you're up." The scientist nodded grimly, taking position at the weapon controls. Roy gave the order, "Fire!" A blinding beam of energy lanced out from the shuttle, striking the insectoid destroyer. The massive ship's armor boiled away in an instant, leaving a gaping hole. Alien crew spilled into the vacuum, their chitinous bodies twitching. "Holy shit," someone whispered. But there was no time to celebrate. Swarms of insectoid fighters peeled away from their dying mothership, zeroing in on the shuttle. Roy barked orders, sending the craft into a series of wild, evasive maneuvers. Energy bolts from the alien weapons crisscrossed space around them. Dr. Kincaid gritted his teeth, swinging the cannon to track the attacking fighters. With each pull of the trigger, swaths of alien craft vanished in bursts of superheated plasma. But more kept coming. "Shields at 60%, the systems officer called out. Roy cursed, juking the shuttle hard to port as another volley of alien fire streaked past. On the Benzite mothership, Theros watched the battle unfold with widening eyes. The human weapon was cutting through the insectoid fleet like they were made of tissue paper. It shouldn't have been possible. These primitives had taken Benzite tech and pushed it beyond anything his people had achieved. Back on the shuttle, alarms blared as more alien fire found its mark. "Shields critical!" the systems officer yelled. "We can't take much more of this." Roy's mind raced. They'd bloodied the insectoid's nose, but staying any longer was suicide. "Dr. Kincaid, give them one last blast, and then we're bugging out." The scientist obliged, sweeping the cannon in a wide arc that vaporized another dozen fighters. Roy punched the throttle, weaving through the debris field of destroyed alien ships as they made a break for the Benzite mothership. When they finally docked, steam hissing from the shuttle's scored hull, Roy let out a ragged breath. They'd done it, battered and bruised, but alive and victorious. In the debriefing room, Roy faced off with Theros. The Benzite's usual smugness was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like respect. "I won't deny it," Roy said. "We took your tech and improved it. But this is just the start of what humanity can do if you stop holding us back. Imagine what we could achieve together." Theros was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice had lost its condescending edge. Perhaps we have been short-sighted. Your species has a drive, a will to evolve that we had not accounted for." The Benzite straightened, meeting Roy's gaze. "You have more than proven yourselves. The Benzite people will honor our commitment. We stand with humanity against the insectoid threat." Roy allowed himself a small smile. It wasn't just a victory against the insectoids. It was the dawn of a new era for humanity among the stars. Roy's hands flew across the holographic displays, coordinating the massive logistical effort to arm Earth's defenses. UN factories churned out plasma cannons at a breakneck pace, the assembly lines a blur of activity as human and Benzite engineers worked side by side. "We need those weapons on every ship and defense platform yesterday," Roy barked into his comms. "The bugs aren't going to wait for us to get our act together." Dr. Kincaid's voice crackled over the line. "We're pushing the fabricators to their limits, Roy. Any harder and we risk quality control issues." Roy rubbed his temples. Fatigue etched on his face. "I know, Amos, but we don't have a choice. Keep pushing." Days blurred together as Roy coordinated the titanic effort. Sleep became a distant memory. He practically lived in the UN command center, subsisting on caffeine and sheer perseverance. Finally, after weeks of round-the-clock work, Roy stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiant, Earth's newest battle cruiser. Captain Jessica Renner, a stern woman with close-cropped gray hair, nodded in approval as technicians bolted the last plasma cannon into place. "Quite a punch you've given us, Phillips," Renner said, running a hand along the cannon's gleaming barrel. "Let's hope it's enough." Roy's reply was cut short by a priority alert. He pulled up the sensor feed, his blood running cold. "They're here. The main invasion force just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system." Renner's face hardened. "All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill." Klaxons blared throughout the ship as crew scrambled to their posts. Roy gripped a console, watching as the vast human Benzite fleet moved to intercept the oncoming swarm. The sensor officer's voice was tight with tension. "Multiple contacts. I'm reading tens of thousands of enemy ships." Roy's stomach churned at the sheer scale of the alien armada bearing down on them. He keyed his comms. "This is Phillips to all ships. Remember your training. Use the new weapons to their full potential. Earth is counting on us." Space lit up as the two fleets clashed in a maelstrom of weapons fire. Plasma beams lanced out from the human and Benzite ships, carving great swathes through the insectoid formations. But for every alien craft destroyed, 3 more seemed to take its place. "We can't keep this up," Renner growled, her squeezing hard on the arms of her command chair. "There's too damn many of them." Roy's mind raced, searching for a solution. His eyes fell on the sensor display, an idea forming. "Captain, what if we bottleneck them? Use the rings of Saturn to our advantage?" A predatory grin spread across Renner's face. "Phillips, you beautiful bastard. All ships implement Phase 2 of Operation Flytrap." The human Benzite fleet executed a choreographed retreat, drawing the insectoid horde deeper into the solar system. Alien ships poured after them, sensing victory. But as they reached Saturn, the trap was sprung. The combined fleet abruptly reversed course, unleashing a devastating barrage that shredded the front ranks of the alien armada. Caught in the planet's rings, the insectoids found themselves unable to maneuver effectively. Roy watched from the UN command center, his heart pounding as the battle raged. The space around Saturn became a killing field, littered with the broken husks of alien vessels. Hours passed, the crescendo of battle slowly fading as the last pockets of insectoid resistance were mopped up. Roy sagged against his console, exhaustion finally catching up with him. A cheer went up from the technicians as confirmation came through. The invasion force had been routed. Humanity had held the line. But before Roy could fully process their victory, a priority alert flashed on his screen. His elation turned to ash as he read the report. A final wave of insectoid ships had broken through, making a desperate push for Earth itself. Roy straightened, his weariness forgotten. The job wasn't finished yet. He keyed his comms, rallying the defenders for one last stand. He keyed his comms, rallying the defenders for one last push. "This is Phillips to all units. We've got a swarm of bogies inbound. They've slipped past our outer defenses and are gunning straight for Earth. All ships, regroup and form up on my signal." Roy's fingers flew across the holographic display, coordinating the scattered fleet elements. A grim-faced Captain Renner appeared on the main view screen. "We're moving to intercept, sir, but those bugs have one hell of a head start," she reported, her voice tight with tension. Roy nodded, his expression resolute. "Do what you can, Captain. We'll be ready planetside." He turned to Tharos, who stood rigidly at his side. "Time to put our combined defenses to the test. Let's get those ground batteries online." They rushed to the UN Command Center, a sprawling underground complex fortified with the latest human and Benzite technology. As they entered the cavernous main hall, Roy barked orders to the assembled officers. "I want every plasma cannon and missile battery manned and ready. If those insectoids make it past our orbital defenses, we're Earth's last line." Tharos added his own commands in the clicking Benzite language, directing his people to integrate their advanced targeting systems with the human weapons platforms. On the massive central holo display, Roy watched with growing dread as the swarm of red dots representing the insectoid ships closed in on Earth's orbital defense grid. The human and benzite fleets raced to catch up, but it was clear they wouldn't make it in time. Suddenly, the display erupted in a dazzling light show as the orbital platforms engaged the alien vanguard. Roy gripped the edge of the command table, his fingers tightening as he watched platform after platform wink out of existence. "They're through," a sensor operator called out. "Insectoid ships entering Earth's atmosphere." Roy's heart sank as he saw the first alien craft streak across the sky, leaving trails of fire in their wake. Explosions bloomed across the eastern seaboard as the invaders rained destruction on coastal cities. "All surface batteries, open fire!" Roy roared. The air outside the command center filled with the thunderous boom of plasma cannons and the shriek of missiles launching. Roy watched grimly as human and benzite weapons tore into the alien ships, but more kept coming. His comms crackled to life. It was Captain Renner, her voice strained. "Phillips, we can't break through their lines. I'm going to buy you some time." Roy's blood ran cold. "Jessica, what are you planning?" "Tell my family I love them," Renner said softly. Then her voice hardened. "It's been an honor serving with you, sir. Give 'em hell down there." Before Roy could respond, the comms cut out. On the main display, he watched in horror as Renner's flagship, trailing fire and debris, accelerated straight toward the heart of the alien formation. A blinding flash lit up the sky, momentarily overloading the command center's sensors. When the display cleared, a massive sphere of superheated plasma was expanding outward, consuming thousands of insectoid ships in its wake. Roy bowed his head, honoring Renner's sacrifice, but there was no time for grief. He turned to Theros, his face set with grim purpose. "Lock down the command center. We make our stand here." For 2 hellish days and nights, Roy and Theros directed the defense of Earth from deep within the fortified bunker. Outside, the world burned. Insectoid dropships disgorged swarms of chitinous soldiers into ruined cities. Human and benzite troops fought street by street, building by building, in a desperate bid to hold the line. Roy's eyes burned from lack of sleep as he pored over tactical displays, coordinating counterattacks and shifting resources to shore up crumbling defensive lines. Theros worked tirelessly at his side, his benzite physiology allowing him to go even longer without rest. On the 3rd day, alarms blared throughout the command center. Roy looked up from his station to see live camera feeds of insectoid troops swarming the outer perimeter of the UN complex. "This is it," he said, grabbing a plasma rifle from a nearby weapons rack. "We hold them here, or Earth falls." Theros nodded grimly, hefting his own alien weapon. Together, they strode toward the command center's main blast doors, where the last pocket of defenders was gathering. As the insectoids breached the outer defenses, Roy felt an eerie calm settle over him. He raised his rifle, sighting down its length at the first alien to round the corner. "For Earth," he whispered, and opened fire.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.